Our top focus on the show. After months of bad blood, US President Donald Trump has now expressed readiness to engage in negotiations with India to resolve the ongoing trade disputes. He has also expanded his sanctions rhetoric, now targeting EU bloc over lack of action. Trump on Tuesday stated in a post on his social media platform, Truth Social, that his administration is actively engaged in ongoing negotiations with India to address trade barriers. He expressed optimism about reaching a favorable agreement with New Delhi and mentioned his anticipation of speaking with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi as well in the coming weeks. Prime Minister Modi responded to the US President Donald Trump's remarks on the ongoing trade talks, saying India and the US are close and natural partners. In a social media post, Prime Minister Modi expressed confidence that negotiations will unlock the limitless potential of the partnership and affirmed that both the sides aim to conclude talks soon. In 2024, US-India two-way trade amounted to $129 billion, with the US incurring a $45.8 billion trade deficit. Despite recent tensions, both nations are committed to resolving trade issues through dialogue. Trump acknowledged India's proposal to reduce tariffs but emphasized the need for further concessions. He expressed confidence that the ongoing negotiations would lead to a mutually beneficial outcome. Trump described Prime Minister Modi as a very smart man and a great friend, highlighting the strong diplomatic ties between the two leaders. The Trump administration's recent softening of tone towards India, towards New Delhi, marks a tactical shift, and that's after weeks of sharp criticism. Experts say that the US risks strategic costs if it alienates India at a time of rising Chinese influence in Asia. Former officials and Republican leaders like Nikki Haley have warned against jeopardizing decades of cooperation. As Trump signals readiness to return to the negotiating table and with Prime Minister Modi open to dialogue, all eyes are now on the next round of trade talks between New Delhi and Washington, D.C., with billions at stake and a growing strategic partnership on the line. These discussions perhaps could reshape economic ties between Washington, D.C. and New Delhi. And well, for more on this, we're now being joined by Ambarish Baliga, independent market analyst, live from Mumbai. Welcome to the broadcast, sir. First up, of course, after saying earlier it's too late, what are the factors that you could think must have prompted Trump to soften his stance towards Delhi?
I think it's a combination of mounting domestic criticism, strategic concerns over alienating a key Asian ally like India, because that's pushing India, Russia, and China to come together, and we've seen that in the past couple of weeks. Even the logic of India funding the war through Russian oil purchase, I think that's falling flat, as China is a bigger buyer and there's no additional sanctions on them. And the biggest fallacy of the statement is that Ukraine itself is buying 15% of their diesel requirement from India, and the source finally could be Russian oil. Now, there is a domestic and political pressure building up on him, where not just Democrats, but even some Republican colleagues, specifically Nikki Haley, has warned that alienating India could actually harm US strategic interests in this region. And the relationship, which was built over many decades, clearly is at risk because India was seen as a balance for China. Now, President Trump was expecting India to buckle under pressure. But since this tactic has not worked, I think he has to find ways to make a U-turn without really sacrificing his position. And this possible U-turn could be aided by the fact that, number one, India hasn't retaliated till now on any of the negative statements which have come from Trump team. And secondly, India clearly has shown willingness to continue with the trade negotiations to achieve a logical closure.
Absolutely. Mr. Baliga, also I want to ask you, by when perhaps do you think that India and US can strike a trade deal? We've seen back and forth going on between both the countries, but if you could perhaps provide us an estimate of when a trade deal can be edged.
See, as per the Commerce Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal's statement in the recent past, it's clearly expected that the trade deal should happen by November. But even if it gets extended, I think should be done before the end of the year. But anyways, I mean, exporters would clearly be missing out on the Christmas demand. So it doesn't really make too much of a difference whether it's November or December. But we are hopeful that it should happen before the end of the year.
And do you think that secondary tariffs could perhaps force Russia to end the war in Ukraine? Because right now we're also seeing that Trump is doubling down on the European Union, saying that there was perhaps lack of action from their side as well.
I don't think so because see, the main buyers of Russian oil are India and China. And it's quite clear now that the secondary tariffs are not really affecting the buying by both India and China. And as far as European Union's exit of Russian gas imports, I mean, that should happen only by 2028. I don't think it will happen earlier because, in fact, in the next few months, we may see an increase because clearly the winter is setting in. So I believe that the Russia-Ukraine war can only end with surrender of Ukraine because talks don't seem to have worked till now, and President Putin seems clearly focused on the end result.
Right, Mr. Baliga, thank you so much for joining us here on WION World is One with your insights.
Thank you.